There is a specific number, recently released by the IDF Home Front Command, that has been involuntarily seared into the memory of every resident in central Israel: 8 kilometers. That is the lethal radius, roughly 5 miles, within which a single Iranian cluster missile warhead can scatter its devastating payload. It does not explode as a single point of impact. Instead, it ruptures in the sky above. Reigning there is a specific number that the IDF Home Front Command published this week, one that has been involuntarily burned into the memory of every resident in central Israel: 8 kilometers. That is the radius, roughly 5 miles, within which a single Iranian cluster missile warhead scatters its lethal payload. It doesn't just strike, it unzips in the sky above, raining down a deadly harvest. This is not a single explosion in a single location. Instead, between 24 and 80 individual submunitions, each packed with 5 kilograms of high explosives, are released from a single casing at a high altitude. They fall silently across an area the size of a small city, drifting without propulsion or guidance, landing wherever gravity dictates. They settle on rooftops, in quiet gardens, under parked cars, on the sidewalks outside schools, and across playgrounds where children were playing only an hour prior. The IDF Home Front Command issued a chilling directive to the Israeli public this week regarding these objects. Do not approach any missile remains on the ground. Alert authorities immediately if you see one. Stay away, because the ones that didn't explode on impact are still there, waiting for a foot, for a hand, or for a child who picks up something small and unfamiliar that looks like it doesn't belong. Since February 28th, Iran has launched at least 6 cluster missile warheads at Israel, a figure confirmed by both the IDF and independent analysts. On March 1st, millions watched footage of submunitions raining across central Israel. On March 3rd, a cluster warhead struck near Tel Aviv, injuring at least 12 people. By March 5th, another barrage was launched, including what Israeli and American analysts at Critical Threats confirmed was yet another cluster variant. Beyond the cluster munitions, conventional Iranian ballistic missiles have killed at least 11 people in Israel and injured over 1,000 others during an 8-day window of sustained bombardment involving more than 90 attempted strikes. However, the most critical part of this story isn't the dramatic footage of bright trails streaking across the night sky. The story that isn't being told is the underlying mathematics. It is the cold, irrefutable arithmetic of the production line that explains why 6 cluster missiles in 8 days is not just a military curiosity. It is a signal of where this war is headed. Once you understand the math, you will understand why the most sophisticated missile defense architecture in human history is facing a problem it was never designed to solve. The Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 interceptors, Israel's primary shields against Iranian ballistic threats, cost approximately $2.5 million per round. That is the price of a single shot at a single incoming threat. According to recent defense economics analysis, intercepting the 200-plus ballistic missiles Iran has fired since late February has cost between 1 billion and 2 billion shekels in interceptors alone. In American dollars, that is roughly $270 million to $540 million spent in just 8 days to stop missiles that Iran manufactures for a mere fraction of that cost. A single Iranian ballistic missile costs between $200,000 and $500,000, depending on the variant. While the cluster warhead variant is more expensive due to the dispenser mechanism and submunition engineering, it still costs Iran far less than it costs Israel to defend against it. When Iran fires a single cluster missile at Tel Aviv, Israel must fire multiple interceptors. A missed intercept over a metropolitan area of 4 million people is a catastrophic, unrecoverable error. Consequently, Israel spends millions of dollars against a weapon that might cost $400,000 to build. The financial ratio is somewhere between 6 to 1 and 15 to 1 in Iran's favor on every single launch. Since February 28th, Iran has launched more than 500 ballistic missiles and nearly 2,000 drones. Iranian military sources claim the combined U.S.-Israeli forces have destroyed 300 Iranian launchers, and the ballistic attack rate has reportedly dropped by 86% since day one. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane has confirmed that this degradation is real. The campaign to target launch infrastructure is working. However, there is another number that refuses to be reassuring. As of Tuesday, the IDF had already launched approximately 4,000 munitions in this campaign, roughly the same amount used during the entire 12-day conflict last June. In just 8 days, the rate of expenditure has been 3 times higher than the summer campaign. The offensive bombing rate, the interceptor consumption rate, and the financial bleeding are all accelerating at triple the pace of the last war, which ended in a ceasefire after 12 days. This war has no ceasefire in sight. President Trump has demanded an unconditional surrender, a demand that Iran's president met with defiance. That demand is something to take to the grave. The cluster missile complicates the mathematics of this war because it introduces a variable the Israeli defense architecture cannot handle efficiently. A conventional missile is a single target. Radar tracks it, calculates the trajectory, and fires an interceptor. If it hits, the threat is gone. If it misses, there is a single explosion. The logic is 1-to-1. A cluster warhead breaks that logic at the moment of maximum commitment. The missile enters as a single target, and Israel fires its interceptors. But the Iranian maneuvering reentry vehicle does not follow a predictable path. Before the interceptor can strike, the warhead opens, and the submunitions are released. Even if an interceptor destroys the main body of the missile after dispersion, the submunitions are already in freefall. There is no second shot. There is no intercept solution for 80 individual falling objects that have no propulsion and no predictable trajectory. They land where they land. Lieutenant Colonel Nadav Shoshani, an Israeli military spokesperson, addressed this reality plainly. Iran has used cluster munitions multiple times. This is a war crime when directed towards civilians, and we're tracking that situation. Note the wording. They are tracking the situation, not stopping it. You cannot intercept submunitions in freefall with arrow systems designed for ballistic trajectories. Even the Iron Dome, built for short-range rockets, was not engineered for ballistic reentry vehicles dispersing from 1,400 kilometers away. The gap is not technological, it is conceptual. The system was built for one threat architecture, but Iran is executing another. The result is submunitions scattered across residential neighborhoods. Bomb disposal teams will be neutralizing these for weeks, if not months. While 112 countries signed the 2008 Convention on Cluster Munitions, Iran, Israel, and the United States did not. The legal architecture to condemn these weapons is the same one the involved parties chose to ignore. Meanwhile, the human cost continues to mount. UNICEF has already confirmed 181 children killed in Iran from the opposite side of this conflict. The White House projects this war will run for another 4 to 6 weeks. Every cluster missile that gets through creates a contamination problem that will outlast the war itself. The unexploded submunitions will be found by gardeners and workers long after the sirens stop. Iran's total ballistic capability is estimated at 1,000 missiles, including the Khaibar Shikan, the solid-fuel missile used for these cluster attacks. It can be prepared quickly, maneuvers to defeat interception, and costs Iran very little. The strain on resources is showing. According to CNN, one Gulf ally was already running low on interceptors by the 4th day of the conflict. A regional source stated, "It's not panic yet, but the sooner they get here, the better." General Kane had warned President Trump that a protracted campaign would impact interceptor stockpiles. Trump launched the campaign regardless and is now ordering manufacturers to quadruple production. However, quadrupling the production of THAAD interceptors from 6 per month only results in 24 per month. To put that in perspective, the UAE alone intercepted 125 drones and 6 ballistic missiles in a single day last Saturday. The math of this war does not favor the side with the most expensive weapons, it favors the side with the most affordable ones. An 85% intercept rate against cluster warheads still means that 15% of the time, submunitions are falling across civilian neighborhoods. In a city of 4 million, 15% is not a success rate, it is a body count. Israel's defense systems, Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow are the best in the world. But they were not designed for a months-long campaign of this magnitude against a country receiving Russian satellite data and absorbing thousands of strikes while refusing to surrender. The defense is not failing, it is being exhausted. In the economics of modern warfare, exhaustion and failure eventually lead to the same destination. It is only a matter of time.